Hello there, my RPG lovers, and welcome to another video. A couple of days ago, I was offered a key for the Gothic Remake Nairas demo. That's the same demo that Alchema showed at Gamescom, and I never had a chance to try it out for myself. Well, I finally got the chance now, and I'm going to talk about my personal experience with the demo.
Welcome to my new life, I guess.
I played through this demo like 4 different times, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. On my second playthrough, I noticed that I missed quite a bit on my first one, and on the last playthrough, I started testing everything that I could and played it with mouse and keyboard for the first time. It's not a very long demo, it's actually very light on the contents. All of this took around 4 hours in total. But I was able to test out a lot of mechanics that will probably be in the full game, and I'll try my best to give my honest feedback to the developer in this video. I think everyone wants to see the remake turn into a great RPG, so providing honest feedback is the best thing we can do. The demo puts you in the shoes of a guy called Nairas, a fresh prisoner of the colony. We are still going to play as the nameless hero when the full game releases, and this is just a prologue for the demo. But it's more than enough to give us an idea about the general feel of this upcoming RPG. Right at the start, Diego welcomes Nairas to the colony and you get to speak with him. So let's start with the characters, the writing and voice acting. I think all characters in the demo sound pretty good.
I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Meaning that I was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
The voice acting is great, and more importantly, the writing seems very good as well. Diego and Whistler have an interesting conversation in the beginning, which sounds very natural.
The wankers tried to swindle us on the grain again. There's 3 sacks at the bottom with worms in them. I bet you 10 nugs they're gonna say they had no idea.
Just 3? I would have thought it was worse.
So, we're just gonna let them keep fucking us over?
That's right, just as we do with them. Did you notice the ore barrels from this month's batch had an extra thick bottom?
Are you saying...
That the barrels had an extra thick bottom. That's all I know. It's all a game, Whistler. They trick us, we trick them, and so it goes till the gods bite the dust.
You're a proper poet.
Speaking of sounding natural, other NPC interactions in the demo sound very natural as well. I was a bit worried about how they're going to approach the writing in the remake. If done wrong, this could easily ruin the mood of the game, but the way the NPCs talk is very rough, in a good way. They sound like convicts, and they have this no bullshit approach to conversation.
I only have a few
Piss off!
You have a surprising amount of options in dialogue with most people you meet in the demo. I like how they added some additional dialogue to these NPCs, where they mention some other regions from the Gothic lore. I think that's a pretty cool touch.
I lived there for a couple of years after I left Varant.
And come to think of it, this is a smart way to build upon the original game by adding these lore pieces from other Gothic games. It's like working in reverse, in order to create depth for the original game. Well, the remake of the original, but you hopefully get what I'm trying to say here. I really hope to see more of these optional dialogue lines for other NPCs in the full game.
I ain't got nothing for you, Greenblood, okay? Sod off.
This demo is set within a very small part of the map from the beginning of Gothic 1. It really feels like the same map, and if you didn't play Gothic 1 recently, you'll definitely think that it's very similar, if not identical. However, they actually changed the beginning zone quite a bit and added some brand new areas around the starting zone of Gothic 1. In a very immersive and clever way, actually. For example, now you can enter the tunnel that was blocked in the original game. The general map layout feels almost identical to the original game, but they added a lot more detail and some new content to the smaller areas. For example, the area above the mines only had a handful of small creatures to kill and some items to pick up. The demo has a quest here and a couple of NPCs, as well as all enemies that we could find in the original game. I have no idea if we're going to find something similar in terms of content in the full game, but I like how they use this particular zone for the quest. We can also compare the glorious view of the old camp from the mountains. It's pretty cool to see it in a new light. The demo added some more water areas, and the fidelity of the zone is obviously a lot higher than the original. There was a landslide, which prevents anyone from going towards the old camp. I like how they went an extra step and tried to think of a logical reason for restricting your movement in this demo. I mean, it's a small thing, but Gothic was known for its immersive design, and I'm glad they made the demo in a similar way. They could have easily just made an invisible wall or something, just for the purposes of the demo and be done with it, but they went an extra step with the landslide and seamlessly included that subplot line in the demo.
Can't you let me sleep in the exchange zone, just until they've cleared the rubble?
Not until you've joined the old camp, mate.
This kind of stuff can tell you a lot about the thought process of Alkima developers, and in this particular case it's a huge plus in my book. Since I mentioned the map, let's take a moment to talk about it some more. I really didn't want to miss anything, so I tried my best to loot everything you can find in each zone and explore it as much as possible, and also test out the combat as much as possible. There is stuff to pick up in chests and some other items on tables and shelves, as you would expect in Gothic. Most items you pick up in the demo are consumables, but there are some items you won't even get to use in the demo, like ore. The most important items you can find in the demo are obviously weapons and potions. You can also use the cooking mechanics and fry some meat. The animation for it looks great and it works exactly how you would expect it to work, it's very simple stuff. The small pond outside the camp will immediately catch your attention if you're an RPG player who tries to explore everything. And of course you can go underwater and find some things to loot. It's a pretty deep pond actually, and you have to be quick not to drown. I explored the bottom as much as possible in order to make sure I didn't miss anything. The most important thing you can find here is a rusty sword, which is actually a big deal. Oh, and by the way, I can enjoy swimming in Gothic without wanting to kill myself. Imagine that. Yeah, every old Gothic fan knows how frustrating the swimming mechanics are in the old game, it's a nightmare. It was certainly highly appreciated because it added an extra layer of exploration, but it was extremely janky. Anyway, the fact that you can easily miss the first weapon that's available in the demo is also pretty cool. It's not like you won't be able to find another rusty sword as well as the pickaxe like in the original game, but I like the fact that the game doesn't hold your hand here. Some other RPGs would desperately try to tell you where to get the starting weapon. It seems like we won't have to worry about additional hand-holding features in the remake, which is a relief. There's not much else to say about this small chunk of the map. It has some decent verticality, as it should, because the original also had this as well. If the whole map of the game gets the same treatment and the facelift, I think the game is going to be totally fine, map-wise. I have much more faith in Alkima after I played the demo, because even the small chunks of the map they added in the demo feel very seamless and logical. They also said they have some brand new areas planned for the remake and some brand new content, so that's going to be interesting to see. The hero can grab ledges in a similar way like in the original game. There is one quality of life feature related to ledges and exploration in general, I guess. If you start walking normally over the ledge, you will always carefully drop on the platform below. This will prevent you from surging to your death by just walking close to similar ledges, but you can still die if you're not careful, especially if you jump off the ledge. I like this quite a bit actually. The hero will also vault over various objects just by moving him close to them. You don't need to press the jump button. I like this as well, it's pretty cool. However, the remake doesn't seem to have the sliding mechanic from the original game, which is not a huge deal, but it's like a big nostalgic mechanic. Maybe I'm wrong, but I never managed to get the hero to slide.
Welcome to my new life, I guess.
Now would be a good time to start talking about the controls. The biggest barrier to entry in the original Gothic wasn't the brutal beginning or the unforgiving nature of the setting. It was the awkward control scheme. That's number one reason why a lot of people dropped the game early. Well, we won't have to worry about the same problem here, but the controls in Gothic Remake demo are not great. I think the animation for all actions in the game are pretty solid, but controlling the character doesn't feel that good, and it's my biggest concern for the game. It's not nearly as snappy as I believe it should be, and it can feel very sluggish. I personally find it easy to get used to these controls because I played countless of RPGs with much worse control schemes, so I can easily adapt to anything. But I know for a fact that many people would have issues with the control scheme, so I hope the full game will have much improved responsiveness. Actually, I'm not even sure if it's about responsiveness, it's more about the speed of these animations. It feels the worst when you're trying to make some sudden movements, like turning around to the opposite sides. Like I said, these animations are fine, especially for the movement, and they actually seem very realistic. But I would be ready to sacrifice that realism a little bit for snappier controls. I wanted to get the feel of the original Gothic controls once again because I was convinced they felt much more responsive despite the jankiness. And I was not crazy. The movement in the original game definitely feels better, which is not something you want to hear. It's a bit stiff for sure, because the game is really showing its age, but that's not the point here. The Gothic Remake demo seems like it's trying to be more realistic with animations. I don't know the exact solution for this problem, and I'm doing my best to describe the issue. To put it simply, it's like the game is moving in 0.5 speeds. If I had to guess, I think they should either increase the speed of these animations, which will obviously affect the gameplay in a big way, and I'm not sure if they're willing to do that. I can't tell you the solution for the problem, but I can definitely tell you there is a problem here. So how is the combat system? I actually think the problem with the controls doesn't affect the combat that much. They are going for a slower and more methodical combat system, but with the same philosophy of the original game, which is probably the best way to approach it. You can only attack once in the beginning of the demo, you can't chain any of your attacks. Until Kirgo teaches you the basics of the combat and how to hold the one-handed sword with, you know, one hand.
When you're using a weapon like this, hold it in one hand, not in both.
He also challenges you to a duel, which bugged out the first time I tried it. It worked fine the second and the third time. You get 3 different attacks with weapons in the demo. One of these attacks is like a side sweep from the original game, but you can chain up to 3 attacks before you stop. The original game allowed you to spam these side sweeps endlessly, but I never thought that was a good idea. It's logical to restrict this attack and redefine the rules of the combat, that's to be expected. The thing is, you will be hard to stop if you land the first attack of this combo, unless something weird happens. Another attack is the stab, which you can do twice in a row, and what's perhaps the most interesting, the overhead attack. I suppose this attack is trying to mimic the running over the head attack from the original. It seems like this attack deals a lot of damage, quite a bit more than one of the side sweeps. Gothic Remake demo features a block and a parry mechanic as well. If you time your blocks right before you're going to get hit, you will stun the enemy for a second, and enemies will use the same mechanic on you. I think it was easy to parry attacks even from animals, because all NPCs have very slow animations, like we established before. Then again, I don't think it's extremely easy, and you can still get hit or easily killed in the demo. I like how the parry mechanic works in general, and I only hope they will include more features related to this mechanic. If parrying isn't your thing, you can also do a sidestep and just do a regular block. The sidestep is going to be huge in combat, at least it definitely seems so from the demo. What I noticed when you fight multiple enemies, your character will automatically aim towards second enemy once you kill the first one, even in the middle of the attack, which felt very useful. Now, I think the overall feeling of the melee combat is decent, but not great in the demo. What I like about it is how physics-based it seems to be. You can prepare your attack before the enemy gets really close, and you can easily land a hit like this. I assume two-handed weapons will be even better when it comes to this. It will be interesting to see how Alchema will further develop these combat mechanics and how it feels to fight some stronger human NPCs as well as beasts. You don't need to lock on if you don't want to, all it takes is for a weapon to connect to the target, and it seems like the range of your weapon means quite a bit. That's what I meant by physics-based mechanics. Target lock works like you would expect, but I usually don't like using target locks in general, and it seems like you don't have to use it in order to be effective in combat. It might seem like a small thing, but it's actually a huge deal for me. I like free-form combat a lot more than using the target lock. You can even level up in the demo, which doesn't seem to do that much to be honest, but still. Using the club in combat is a little bit different than a sword. It has the same attack patterns for the most part, but it also has a unique uppercut attack. If you press the same button with a sword, you will do a stab attack. So this makes me believe that all weapon types will have at least one unique attack. The original game had the same animations for all weapon types and they would only change when your skill improves. The same happens in the demo as well, but now we also have unique attacks for different weapon types, I guess. I'm just assuming things here, but it seems logical to me. One of the best things about the range gameplay is how the character feels to move when you pull out the bow. You don't turn around like you would normally do when your weapon is sheathed, and that's probably why. You can also dodge anytime and cancel the attack, which gives the range playstyle a much needed flexibility. Hitting things with arrows feels okay, but I'm not sure if arrows are projectiles or hit scans. I would definitely prefer projectiles, but I'm not so sure if that's the case here. It looks more like a hit scan mechanic, although don't quote me on that. Listen, this demo is pretty old by now, so who knows how the game actually looks like at this moment. But this is all we have so far. I tried to kill Redford just for the sake of it, and you can also provoke him in dialogue to make him attack you. This was great to see, and I have high expectations for the AI system in the game, as well as all the decisions you can make in and out of dialogue. The demo had to label Redford as an essential NPC because otherwise you wouldn't be able to continue the main quest. This probably won't be the case in the full game. You should be able to kill 90% of NPCs if you can handle them in a fight. Speaking of which, I kicked Redford's ass, but there was no option to do an execute move. You can kill Kirgo though, after you defeat him in a duel. Kirgo also has the reaction when I draw my weapon, which is another small but very important feature in the original Gothic.
Don't make me repeat myself, man.
As for the quests, we only have like 3 or 4 in the demo, and it's some very simple stuff. Here's one interesting thing about it, you can actually fail the hunting quest. Although to be fair, when I failed the quest on the first run, it seemed like a bug, and I don't know how it happens. The demo is obviously not perfect, and they even warn you about the bugs that can happen. My point is, the demo acknowledges that you failed the quest, which means that we can expect such things to happen in the full game. And hopefully the bugs won't be the reason for failing them. Drax has a unique dialogue line if this happens, which is a cool little detail.
Forget about the scavs.
Why?
Because someone killed them while I wasn't looking. I'm sure it wasn't you.
I mean, listen, I'm a huge Gothic nerd, so I found the smallest details very cool. The UI is minimalistic, just like in the original game, but now we have a proper inventory system. I think there is not a single Gothic fan out there who wants the same old clunky inventory UI from the original. I mean, sure, you can make an argument that Gothic had a more immersive inventory because it's so simple. I think this UI looks clean and it's easy to find what you're looking for. Come to think of it, even the inventory system bears resemblance to the old UI from the original game. You have those tabs on the side, which are used to select different types of items, just like in the original. Now you can loot things while having your weapons out, and there is a special animation for it. There was something satisfying about having to put down your weapon in order to loot stuff, but I don't mind this change, because it's going to save you some time.
Welcome to my new life, I guess.
And that would cover everything, I guess.
Piss off!
I hope we get to see some brand new gameplay trailer soon, just so we can see the progress they made. Like I said, this demo is pretty old by now. I have high hopes for the remake, and it seems like a lot of people feel the same. It goes without saying that I will cover this game in depth and inform you about any major updates, so stick around. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. And if you want to go a step further, consider supporting your boy by becoming a YouTube channel member or a Patreon. Huge thanks to all my current supporters, and I'll see ya in the next one.